continue with step 3, determine the transaction price. Transaction price is basically referring to step number 3, right? Identifying the consideration that the company should receive from the customer. So basically, in a normal sales, we normally sell our product at fixed price, but in contract, the transaction price or the amount that we expect to receive from the customer is not necessarily fixed. It may also include variable, right? And this variable, this consideration is including variable element, possibly because it includes discounts, rebate, credit, or performance bonuses or royalties that you may give to your customer. So in that case, if let's say you identify the transaction price is RM10,000, so and in the agreement you include this variable element, which means that you may give discount to your customer, for example, if they pay early, or maybe if we perform our obligation, if we delay in performing our obligation, then the customer may pay at a lower amount. So these are the factors referring to as variable, which means that the amount that the company receives is not fixed, depending on this factor. All right, and that factor is future event, which we are not sure. So basically, variable is uncertain. So whenever the company want to set the transaction price and to include these variable, the entity must make sure that this uncertainty, all right, is resolved, and that the uncertainty of the variable is resolved, which means that it is based on their experience, based on the similar contract that they have done previously. Okay, all right. Now, how do the company determine the transaction price to include the variable factors? Okay, so there are two ways based on the expected value and the most likely amount. If let's say there are more than two possibility of getting the consideration, then the company should apply the probability weighted amount to identify the transaction price. But if the entity has only two possibility, right? If the company has only two possibility, then the one that is most likely amount will be identified as the transaction price. All right. Now let's look at example 6, estimating variable consideration. Now we want to set what is the transaction price, but in order to set this consideration, it is influenced by several factors. Right? For example, Peabody Berhad entered into a contract with a customer to build a warehouse for 100,000. Okay, so at this moment 100,000 is the transaction price, with a performance bonus of 50,000 that will be paid based on the timing of completion. So if the entity is efficient, then the entity will get 100,000 plus 50,000 if they perform within the expected completion date. So the amount of this bonus decreases by 10% per week for every week beyond the agreed upon completion date. So in the agreement, it stated that if the PO is delivered later than 1 week as promised, then the bonus of 50,000 will be deducted. Alright, so deduction will be 10% times 50,000, that means 5,000. For every 1 week delay, you will not get 5,000 from the bonus. That means 50,000 minus 5,000. So the contract requirement are similar to contract that Peabody has performed previously. So this is the based on the experience. Okay, when you identify, this is based on the experience that have been done previously. And management believe that such experience is predictive for this contract. Okay, so in order to identify the transaction price and to include the element of variable, it must be predictive. So management estimate that there is a 60% probability that the contract will be completed by the agreed upon completion date. So here you will see 60% chance of 150,000, so you will get 90,000 here. Alright, and then the management estimate okay, a 30% probability that it will be completed 1 week late. So if it is 1 week late, you will not get this, it will minus here 10% from the 50,000. So here 30% chance probability of getting 145,000. That means 100,000 is the transaction price, and 50,000 minus 5,000 for 1 week delay. That means you only get 45,000. So times 30%, you get 43,500. And only a 10% probability that it will be completed 2 weeks late. If you are 2 weeks late, that means deduct 20% from 50,000. So expect to get 140,000. So based on these three possible outcome, so the transaction price will be 147,500. But if you say that the outcome will only be 2, so the management would say that they will meet the deadline and receive the 50,000 bonus, whether they will delay or whether they are able to complete within the expected promised date. So if based on the most likely outcome, so they will identify the TP as 150,000. Okay, normally they can use most likely outcome if there is only 2 outcomes, but if more than 2 outcomes, then you have to use the weighted the probability weighted method. This is to determine the transaction price. Okay, all right. So when the in the contract, when you want to include variable element to the transaction price, you must make sure that it is reasonable assured, okay, that it will be entitled to the amount, and that you only include the variable consideration into the TP if you have the experience with similar contract and able to estimate the cumulative amount of revenue. Right, and based on experience, they do not expect a significant reversal of revenue previously recognized. So when you include variable element into the transaction price, it means that there is uncertainty there because it's just based on your estimated. So that's why it's very important that you have a similar experience. You have similar experience relating to the same contract, which help you to be sure that the amount that you are setting is reliable, okay, or reasonable. Because if, let's say, you include the variable element into your transaction price and later the revenue that you recognize reverse, that means you will get lesser. All right, so that is not proper in determining the TP. So if you do not comply with this condition, so we consider that the revenue recognition is constrained. Okay, and reversal of revenue could be due to several factors. For example, the element is influenced by the market, by the volatility of the market, which later on change the revenue that you will earn. Or maybe that the uncertainty that you include in the TP is not resolved, right? Due to the uncertainty, it's not resolved, it's not certain. Or maybe the company's experience is limited. That's why it's very important that you have the same experience of a similar contract. So that will help you to determine the variable, to be ensured that the variable is correct, is most likely correct. Otherwise, the revenue amount is not accurate, or maybe we can say it's not reliable. All right, or maybe that probably there is a reversal of revenue. Okay, it can happen when the contract has a large number of possible consideration amount. Okay, you are not sure what is the best outcome to identify the revenue. Right, so when you are not sure on the variable part, okay, so basically you should set the TP at fixed amount, because the condition to include the variable element into the TP is only if you are certain and the amount is predictive, right? And also we have to consider when we determine the transaction price on the time value of money, because let's say if you make an agreement to sell a product, all right, and you provide a term of payment which the customer can pay after 1 year. Right, so when the customer can pay after 1 year, there is an element of financial component there. So if you want to set the TP, okay, and the customer is paying after 1 year, so you should adjust the transaction price in which you have to consider the present value of the consideration. Again, you have to take the present value as a consideration for the contract when the customer pay after 1 year. But if the customer pay within 1 year, then you don't have to adjust the consideration or the TP. Okay, and any different, okay, because you have to adjust, you have to identify the present value. So any difference between the present value and the consideration that you expect to receive now will be considered as interest revenue for the entity. All right. Okay, let's say look at this example. On 1st July, I think this one we can skip this one because you don't cover note receivable. Okay, you can skip this one. Okay, now this is again step 3, determining the transaction price. If let's say the customer is not paying in terms of cash but using other non-cash consideration, all right, such as donation, gift, so the identifying the TP will be based on the fair value lah. Okay, the fair value here. If you are unable to identify the fair value of the consideration, okay, in terms of product, then you should identify the standalone price of the product as the consideration. Okay, this is just a repetitive. Okay, and volume discount. Okay, this is also the element of variable, okay, which you should include when identifying your TP. Alright, for example, Samsung offering its customer a 3% volume discount if they purchase at least 2 million of its product during the calendar year. Alright, so on 31st March 17, Samsung has made sales of 700,000 to Arctic. Okay, in the previous 2 years, Samsung sold over 3 million to Arctic in the period April to 31st December. So now this is the experience we are talking about here. Okay, alright, in the previous 2 years. So this is the experience with the customer that you're able to sell 3 million. So in order to to deserve the 3% volume is to make a sales of 2 million. So based on our experience, that there is a possibility that we'll give the 3% volume discount to Atik. All right. Therefore, we have to adjust our TP to include this variable, and it is very predictive. So on 31st March 31st March 2017, all right, we will recognize the revenue as 679,000, which is the deduction for the bonus, that is 700,000 times 3%. Okay, so because you are selling to Atik 700,000, so we times with 3%, so we get 21,000. So 700,000 minus 21,000, so we only recognize revenue 679,000. This is the consideration that we will receive, we expect to receive from our customer, and then we debit their account receivable. Now, if let's say the customer do achieve the 200,000 sales, okay, then we will receive debit cash 679,000, and you will cancel off the account receivable. All right. But okay, this is one possibility to happen. All right. Or if let's say when you sell the product, you deliver the goods, all right, you have recognized the sales revenue as 679,000, but the customer actually fail. Okay, the customer fail. You are not able to sell. It does not achieve the 2 million. So the customer do not deserve the 3% volume. Therefore, when the customer pay, they have to pay in full 700,000. Okay, consideration without deducting the bonus, and then you will close the account receivable, that is 679,000 here. So the difference between 700,000 and 679,000 is considered as a sales discount forfeited. All right, and you credit. So this one will become the income. So the business considered as income lah. All right, it is on the credit side, but it is not recognized as revenue, right? But it is recognized as sales discount forfeited. It is not sales revenue. It is other income. Okay, that's to be continued in the next section. Thank you.